They had waited so long for something like this. Not just a house, but the feeling of arrival, of permanence, of finally stepping into the shape of a life they had only imagined from rented windows and sleepless nights. The white facade seemed to smile when they pulled into the gravel driveway, its windows wide and generous, catching the soft light of late afternoon like it had been waiting for them all along. It was quiet here, the kind of quiet that didn't feel empty, just distant from everything loud and uncertain. A garden stretched lazily to the left, full of weeds and half-wild flowers that made the daughter giggle as she spun through them, arms open like wings. Inside, the house breathed with that hollow echo of emptiness. Not cold, not eerie, just still. The walls were clean, the floors bare, and the rooms unfolded one by one like the pages of a story not yet written. The sun dashed across the wooden boards, his steps echoing too loud, too happy, too unaware. The mother stood in the doorway of what would be the living room and smiled without words. The father walked slowly, touching things, the corners, the door frames, the glass of the windows, like trying to confirm it was all real. And for a while, it was. The days passed softly. The children settled into their routines. School runs, backyard games, chalk drawings on the patio stones. The mother filled the kitchen with the rhythm of ordinary life, and the father cut the grass every Saturday like it meant something. They hung curtains. They laughed. They stopped locking the doors at night. The basement door remained closed, but no one thought to ask why. Because everything was fine. Until it wasn't. He woke again at 3:33. Not startled, not even surprised. The sound had become a presence in his nights, like an old memory returning in pieces. Always at the same hour, always tugging at the same place inside him. He didn't reach for the clock this time. He didn't glance toward the window or listen for reassurance. He simply rose, silent, slow, and moved through the sleeping house with the ease of someone who no longer needed to ask why. The weeping was waiting, and it was louder now, not in volume, but in shape. It had form, direction, a pull. The hallway stretched longer than usual, the light colder. The air was heavier, not choking, but thick with anticipation, like the house itself had exhaled and forgotten how to breathe back in. He passed the mirror on the landing without looking. He avoided the windows. He already knew what would be there. At the end of the hallway, the basement door stood open just a sliver, as if something had already slipped through, as if it had forgotten to shut the way behind it. He reached out and pushed the door wider. It groaned, low and reluctant, like a sound that had been holding back for too long. The staircase beyond was dark, silent, waiting. He stepped down, one foot after the other, the wood under him creaking not with age, but with awareness. Each stair seemed to hum beneath him. The weeping rose, twisted, folded into something more primal. And then, the door slammed shut behind him. A deep, decisive thud that echoed down the walls and swallowed the light entirely. He flicked the switch. Nothing. And then the weeping stopped. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was alive. It pressed in on him, seeped into his skin, settled in his ears. And then came the sound. Not crying, not wind, but breathing. Low, wet, heavy. It didn't come from a corner. It came from everywhere. It pulsed through the walls, through the floor, through the marrow of his spine. He couldn't move, not because he was paralyzed, but because something deeper in him refused to interrupt the moment. He reached into his pocket, hands trembling now, breath shallow and uncertain, and found the lighter. Old, familiar, almost warm. He flicked once, then again. On the third try, a flame, small, fragile, and in its glow, a face. Close, too close. Not human, not beast. Something caught between what once was and what should never have been. Its features were soft in the wrong places, sharp in others. No eyes, just pits. A mouth, wide and still, as if frozen in the middle of a scream it never finished. Its skin gleamed like something wet left too long in the dark. It didn't move. It didn't speak. It didn't need to. Because it was already there, and then the flame went out, the lighter fell, the darkness returned, deeper than before. Complete. If he screamed, it stayed down there with him. The next morning, the house was still, his bed untouched, his coffee cold, the basement door closed, but not quite. Just enough to remind them it had opened, just enough to whisper it might again. They searched, of course, his wife, the children, the police. There was no blood, no sign of a struggle, no trace, just the door, just the silence, just the sense that something had been decided. And from that day on, the basement light never worked again. Every night, at 3:33, the door creaked open on its own. No one ever saw him again. And the house, it waited, quietly.